You're watching the Sports Central Podcast.
First of all, during spring training and stuff like that, this is a quote where you're saying, we're back. I don't know if you remember that. What made you say something like that?
Well, I just feel like this place existed at a very, very high level, for many, many years in the past. And I think that when I just see the energy around this program, I see the excitement around this program, standing in the Rose Bowl looking at the alums and our fans, it's just something that hasn't happened in a little while, that we're in that position that we might have been in years in past. So that's really where that came from in my mind, was looking around and just seeing the excitement, the energy, and the love that these people have for this program has made me feel like, we're back. That was my statement and the reason why.
How was it having your first spring practice and your first spring game?
Yeah, it was great. I mean, it's interesting because we get here in January 3rd. I think the portal opened on January 3rd or 4th, whatever it was. So you're already starting to figure out how many guys are staying, how many guys are going, how many we have to bring in. We ended up bringing in 44, new transfers and another 16 freshmen. So, when you look at there's 60 new people on this team. So now you just want to get to work. So you have a chance to get to work and get through spring ball after winter conditioning first, then into spring ball, and then to go in the Rose Bowl. And we went out on a Friday night and went out and did a walkthrough at the Rose Bowl on that Friday night, and to see the marquee lit up with the Rose Bowl on it, walking in and the lights all on in the stadium, it was a surreal feeling for sure. And then we came back the next day and had our spring game, and it was 15, 20,000 people there excited to be present and be part of it. And it was something that was just a culmination of a lot of work from the portal to winter, to into spring ball, and then to finally end that day sharing that moment with our fans and our supporters and parents and alums and recruits was pretty special.
Well, it was also special. You had women's head basketball coach Corey Close as a special coach, and I think it was Adam Wright, I believe. Adam Wright, yep. Water polo coach, both national champions. Yeah. What was that experience like, having those title winners with you? Yeah,
it was phenomenal. So Adam Wright, whether he was a player or a coach, has been part of 12 national championships. Yeah. 12. Think about that. Oh, he knows how to win. So, it was pretty cool to watch him lead the team out after halftime, and just the way he did it, what he said to them at halftime, I was like, damn, this guy's good. Right? And he had never coached football before, but it was fun to watch him do it. They came up with a couple of their own plays. So we gave them like a Madden, sheet that had run,
Wait,
pass.
They had their own play card?
Oh, yeah, run, pass, trick. But the tricks are ones that they wanted to put in. So Corey had her own. She talked to Coach McVay over at the Rams and got a couple ideas. Adam had his own ideas that he liked. And on the flip side of it then was the defense, where we're going to play base defense, if we're going to blitz or play man, right? Yeah. So they could pick what they wanted to do in those moments. So they just pointed. The coordinators called it in through the helmet communications. And, they were on the headsets listening to coaches talk about what down and distance it is, what score do we need, what time's left on the clock, just all those things. I think it was pretty cool for them to have a little insider, look into what goes on inside the headsets.
There's video, your social media team is great.
They're great.
Where you're mic'd up.
Yeah.
And what I noticed about that is you're going to like almost every player, every position, coaching them up, giving them these tips, motivating them, also holding them accountable. What do you enjoy so much about doing that?
Yeah, well, first of all, it's my job. Yeah, that's where it starts, right? So,
but every coach is different.
Every coach is different.
You can tell you're a big vocal leader, and you spend a lot of quality time with each person.
Yeah, and I think it is important. What you just said there is important. Every coach is different. I'm not for everybody. It's not going to work. Like, no, not everybody's going to love being in this program. Not all assistant coaches, are not going to love being in this program. But for me, it's about just how do I give as much of myself as humanly possible to these young men. And I expect them to do the same to each other. And we always talk about team, teammate, self, right, in that order. And that is the most important thing. And I know there's only one of me. And I know that I have to have enough knowledge about each position that I could help and correct mistakes and help them become something more than what they maybe initially thought they could even become on their own. But it starts with, the attitude I bring every day. If I'm going to walk in here, kicking rocks with my head down, disappointed or tired from the night before, then that's going to spread right to the assistant coach, which is going to spread to the players. So I got to make sure every day I walk in here, I feel like I'm, Mickey Mouse going to Disneyland, right? Like that's what I got to feel like. And I got to walk around here and just know that there's a lot of work to be done, but there's a good way to do it where you can still connect with these young men, right? And so there's the competence, then there's the connection, and then the overall chemistry that's got to exist within this program. So that's really what I understand to be my job. And then the assistant coaches, that feeds off to them, which feeds off to the players. But when we get out there, I want to be very deliberate about what I do and what I say and where I go and how I do it. And there's some fundamental things. There's some situational football. There's some schematic football that we're going to talk about. And then there's other football that and other things about on a personal side or a motivation thing, or I just see a kid a little down, how do I get him up a little bit? Or I see this kid who's up, how do I get him to give what he's got right now? Those are all the things that I'm always trying to pay attention to, and every coach is different, and there's no doubt about it. Some sit up here and watch practice, right? And that's fine, that's their style, but for me, I just got to be true to who I am.
Just curious, let's just say I'm one of your players, Coach. I'm a 12th year senior and a running back. I'm known for being a good blocker. I missed my block. Like, what would you tell me? What would you tell me, Coach?
Well, I hope I would have a reason why you missed that block, and I hope we would be able to get to some specifics about why, and then also positives to follow it up. So to me, why did you miss that block? Well, you didn't understand it was an outside run play, and you got your head to the inside. So this kid made a move, set you up a little bit, and took you to the outside and made the play on the jet sweep or whatever it was. So moving forward, you got to understand it's an outside run play. If he goes inside, I'm good with him going inside. You got to make sure you get to a half man on the outside. You secure the edge because we're circling the defense and running this ball outside. Next time you do that, this play's going to go big, and we're going to have huge success.
Yeah, so to me, the teaching, but also the vision in the future,
and then
like
what
could happen.
Yeah, get specific, and then correct it, and then on top of it, paint a positive picture that allows them to understand what's about to happen when they do it right. So positives and specifics is what I really look for from our coaches.
I need to see if I have any more eligibility left. You've gone all out since you've been here. I mean, you went down like fraternity row, giving out pizzas and stuff like that. What's the big motivation for you to really connect with its community, this campus, and your players?
Yeah, well, I think the campus deserves it. Honestly, I talk about it all the time, but you're in the #1 public school in the country. You have first-round draft picks and Hall of Fame, or not Hall of Fame players, but also Olympic athletes here. And then you get into the classroom and you got the brightest minds probably in the world. It's the most applied to school in the country. There's a lot that comes out of, what you get a chance to walk around and interact with on a day-to-day basis. So it's important, though, that as the most populated team on this campus, that I don't just sit back and say, that's us, come support us, that's it. I want to make sure that we're out supporting everybody the same, right? And I think, often you could sit in that office, there could be a big ego involved in this. There could be a lot of, I'm bigger than a lot of people here. I'm not. I'm one of them. And this team works and will work because we all understand that, it's not about what we take, it's about what we give. And that's what I know I need to do, not only on this for our players, not only with the alums, not only with recruiting, but also, with everybody on campus and in the community.
What was your first impression of, your quarterback, Nico Maliava?
Yeah, good. Yep. It was great. I mean, I said it now numerous times, but to think about what he went through a year ago is a challenge. He came out of Tennessee. He ends up here towards the end of the summer. He gets a couple weeks in with the team, goes into preseason camp, game 3, offense coordinator, head coach, everybody's removed from the team all of a sudden. And now he's kind of floating on his own. And at that point, when something like that happens, I think everybody just kind of, recedes to their little areas and protects their own, best interests. And it's hard to be a leader in those moments. So he never really had a chance to get his footing in a leadership role. So it was really important when he got here that he understood how much we believed in him and how much he understood how we needed him to be the voice and be the leader. And he's done a great job of that ever since.
One thing that I learned, we kind of talked about this off camera, my college experience, I had a change of head coach when I was there. And I remember one of the coaches mentioning, sometimes the younger players are like clay. Maybe they're soft. And then, you have the juniors and seniors where that clay has, hardened because they're kind of stuck in their old ways. What kind of challenge are you going to be faced with that? And how are you going to overcome it to mold these guys who are like the juniors and seniors to follow your philosophy and what you want to do here at UCLA?
Well, the difference here is we have a lot of people come from a lot of different places.
Yeah.
So we have 44 new kids on this team. A lot of the kids that are, 60 new when you include the freshmen. And a lot of the guys that were here, this is their second, maybe third place that they've been at. So it's not like anybody's stuck in ways here. Now, they might have habits and they might have things that they bring with them from other places. And that's important to identify. Are they good? Are they bad habits? And I think that's the most important thing, because we have, on every meeting starts with a sign that says greatest place in the world to play football, right? And that is not a statement. That's a living, breathing organism that needs to be watered and taken care of every single day. So if you're coming from New Haven and you have this great idea, you transferred in here and you're like, hey, we used to do this and it's a great idea, I'm probably going to use it, right?
Yeah.
And we're going to make sure that everybody understands there's no complaining going on around here. You compete or you can complain, and you can't do both, right? So I want everybody to be competing. I want everybody to be, taking care of this culture. Everybody taking care of what we go through on a day-to-day basis. If you find yourself sitting in a corner complaining, right, then you're not meant for this program, right? And if you find yourself complaining about something, what is your solution? If you have a solution, bring it forward. If you don't have a solution, stop complaining, right? And those are really the things. And I think, for me, it's not easy for a lot of head coaches to do, because it shows some major vulnerability to be like, hey, you have a better way than I did. I don't want to own a monopoly on every idea that comes out of this program, right? I want everybody to be thinking about it all the time and finding better ways to do it. So I don't think it's a bad thing people came from a lot of different places. I don't think it's a bad thing if they're set in some ways, if the ways are good, right? Well, maybe we should reset ourselves a little bit more like them. But if the ways are bad, then that's the different conversation. So we have to develop our standards. And once we develop our standards and we all agree on those standards within the program, then it's all of our responsibility to uphold those standards and live those standards every single day. And the best teams are the ones that do it when the coaches aren't around.
You play ball before. I'm sure you have a competitive spirit, obviously. Yeah. What's the mindset that you have coming from a program that was winning so many games and making the college football playoff to here, where now you have this bigger challenge where you're in this Big Ten conference for you mentally when you take the field?
Well, I just think that to me, it's still going to be football, right? And it's still going to be, how well we play together. Can we stay intact from injuries to off the field things, all the things that come with it? Are we going to be able to put ourselves in a position where we're playing some really elite football in November, somewhere in November, working our way to the end of that season? There's really, this is my, I think, 5th time maybe being a head coach, and every place I've taken over other than one had not been winning. So this is not something that is new to me. This is just a matter of how do I inject as much life into this program as we possibly can, and I think we're off to a good start.
Speaking of off to a good start, how would you describe your latest recruitment round in regards to bringing some guys in?
Yeah, I think we're doing a good job. There's a long runway till signing day of December, right? So there's a lot that will go in our favor and some that won't, and all that will be part of it. I like where we're at, though. I like that people are understanding and seeing the vision. I like that people are believing in the vision. I like that people and coaches, and we had 180 high school coaches here the other day for a free clinic.
Yeah, I heard about
I love that they get a chance to watch us and see what goes on in this community. I don't know how much of an option UCLA was in the past, right? And you see a lot of people leave California and go a lot of other places, but we're an option now, that's for sure. And I think that that's important, that we continue to, build those relationships and take us to that, that next level on the recruiting side of things. But it's a delicate battle here. When you got agents and you got, a lot of parents.
The
and you
game
got
has changed.
There's a lot that could go right. There's a lot that could go wrong. And I'm sure somewhere in the middle will be the truth. And I think it's for us to stay the course and find the right people that want to be here for the right reasons. And that's the most important thing.
When you look at when you brought all those coaches here, obviously it was a benefit for them to learn, okay, let me see how they coach at the college level and then bring it to the high school level.
Yep.
How much of a benefit was it for you to really connect with those coaches, being a guy from the East Coast?
Yeah, it's huge. It was important to have those coaches here. We've done that everywhere I've been, so it's not like it was just a West Coast thing and because we're new here, but that is a benefit of it ultimately. And I think, how does any relationship begin? At the start. So we had to find a way to start it. So the first moment we had to get on the road and get out there and view and visit with these coaches, we went to the Trinity League, then we went all over the public league, then we went back and forth through up and down this West Coast, which was important for us to be able to do. And then having them come here to the clinic was also really important, because I think about it. You're a high school coach. You're a high school player. You're going to have a million coaches come through and tell you why their program's the greatest, right? Yeah. They're going to tell you all these things about it. And then you're going to go watch a practice and be like, wait a second. That is nothing like what they told me it was like. They told me it was like this and that doesn't feel like that. So it was also important for us to get them here so they could see it with their own 2 eyes, because in the end, what are we trying to do here? We're not selling something. We're presenting something, and we're trying to make a match, right? So when the coaches understand, what type of player needs to be part of this program, what energy's got to be brought to it, the competitive spirit that's got to show up every day, their ability to fight all day long as hard as they possibly can, but then to know that we're going to ask them to love this game, right? And I think that's something that the passion shows up on the field, and it should show up on the film, and it should show up in what we do on a day-to-day basis. So we shouldn't take anybody that doesn't love this game and chooses us for the wrong reasons, and that's important for us to be able to do. That was a big help to have 180 coaches here from 3 different states that day.
Nice. For people who don't really know your journey, explain your journey. I like from the beginning to when you played ball to all of a sudden how you got here to UCLA.
Yeah, that's
as quickly as possible.
Yeah. So I was part of a football family. So I grew up. My dad was the coach. My uncle, my grandfather, their brother-in-law. There's a million people part of this high school program. I left the high school program and I became a graduate assistant coach at a Division III school, private military college in the middle of Vermont for $5,000 a year.
Okay.
It was a 2-year
High
deal.
paying,
Phenomenal.
Huh?
2 years.
How would you compare that to the pay here?
Yeah, a little different. So that was 2 years there. Then after that was over, I went and became a defensive coordinator at a school outside of Philadelphia for a year, and then I spent 2 years. I was in the D3 world for a little while. And then I got to a place called Johns Hopkins University, which is arguably one of the best, academic institutions in the world. And that was neat because that was the first time I saw, man, we bring a kid here, we can change his life forever, right?
Yeah.
If he gets this education, it will change his life forever. We became one of the top teams in the country. I thought we did a nice job there, and then I became a head coach in 2010 for the first time. D3, D2, FCS, FBS, and now here. So for me, it was just a climb the whole way. It wasn't easy.
Yeah, I was about to say, describe that journey.
Yeah, I mean, there was just a lot of years. I don't think I even broke the $100,000 mark until I think 20 years into this profession, probably. So those were things that, just were really different, for me as far as just, I was going to do this forever, and it was never about that.
Yeah.
It was about this is my passion, this is my calling, and helping these young men become something bigger than they ever thought they could become is ultimately what drives me on a day-to-day basis. So that was really my journey, is that D3, I would have stayed there forever, but it worked out to go to D2. D2, I could have stayed there forever. It worked out to go up, and then every step of the way, you just find yourself in a situation where, winning matters and people pay attention to that, but how you do it, I also think matters more than just what you do. So I think that's what I found here, is that this is a place that values the way that I do it and the way that we will do it, and I think it's a great match.
How much of an influence did your dad have on you and your career?
A ton. Yeah, I mean, I grew up, the day I was born, he was a high school football coach, so it was not a thing that I didn't understand what went into it. I understood the hours. I understood how hard it was. I understood the sense of community. I understood what it was like to take care of people that couldn't take care of themselves like he did in that community. Yeah. And those were all lessons I learned, growing up, and that's a big deal.
Last question. Both East Coast guys.
Yeah.
We look outside here. The weather's amazing. But let's take it a step further. You're now going to be the head coach, you are the head coach of UCLA. First home game, real home game that really matters, and you're at the Rose Bowl.
Yeah.
What do you think that moment's going to be like for you?
Yeah, well, I got a little taste of it from the spring game. We're only playing ourselves, so there was no outsiders in there. It was very much just us and us. And it was an amazing feeling. But I think walking, out that tunnel onto that field, historic field, and just thinking about the history and the people that have come before us and the shoulders we're standing on, it's really an amazing moment that I'm really, really looking forward to. And I know that our fans will be there. I know our community will be there. I know our students will be there. And we're just going to keep dumping as much energy into this as we possibly can, and hope there's a time when they dump it back into us.
My man, Coach.
All right, brother.
Appreciate
Thanks
you
so much.
much.
Yeah, thanks
absolutely.
for being here.
Thank you for being on the podcast, my man.
Cool.